Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today we are digging into a really fascinating devotional text called Reflecting the Character of Christ Through Merciful Service. And as I was reading through this text, I realized we are actually looking at the ultimate guide to discovering how to be a real-life hero. Now, we aren't talking about wearing a cape or flying through the sky. We are talking about using Jesus as our ultimate role model to make a massive, real-world difference right where we are.
Okay, let's jump right in. I want you to just close your eyes for a second and imagine the absolute biggest, most mind-boggling gift you have ever received. Maybe it was a giant box wrapped in shiny paper, or a surprise trip that totally blew you away. You got it? Now hold on to that feeling, but I want you to multiply it by 1,000,000, because the source text we are looking at today tells us about a gift that makes even the greatest birthday present look absolutely tiny.
God has given you a proof of His love that defies all computation. Now, defies all computation is a pretty big phrase. But what it actually means is that God's gift of love is kind of like a massive math problem that goes on to infinity. If you tried to type it into a calculator, the screen would just flash an error message because the number is way too big. It's vastly bigger than any toy, any video game, or anything you could ever even imagine.
Our source takes this even further, stating that we literally have no line with which to measure it and no standard with which to compare it. Just think about that for a second. Even if you took the longest tape measure in the world and stretched it all the way across the entire galaxy, you still couldn't measure the size of this love. It literally will not fit anywhere in the universe to be properly measured. It's just totally, wonderfully infinite.
So, what do you do when someone gives you a gift that humongous? Well, here is what I found really amazing. The text points out that in return for this incredible gift, God gives us an amazing mission. He doesn't ask us to pay Him back, mostly because we couldn't anyway. Instead, He calls upon you to be His merciful helping hand. You get to be His actual physical hands in the real world, showing mercy and helping others who are struggling.
The devotional asks a really powerful question right here. It asks, can you refuse the request of one who has done so much for you? Think about it. If someone gave you the most incredible, unmeasurable gift in the entire universe, could you look them in the eye and say no when they asked you for a favor? No way. But that brings up a really important question for us. If our mission is to be God's helping hands, how exactly do we figure out what to do next?
To figure out exactly how to be that helping hand, we really don't have to guess. We just play the greatest game of follow the leader ever created. We look directly at the ultimate example, which is Christ Himself, the Lord of glory. By studying exactly how Jesus lived when He was right here on earth, we basically get the perfect instruction manual for our own hero mission.
What's really amazing to think about is that even though Jesus was the Lord of glory, He was also known as a man of sorrows who knew want and privation. He was actually subject to poverty as a child. He didn't grow up with all the newest toys or the fanciest clothes. He was just like us, but without a lot of the things we tend to take for granted. And He did this specifically to help fallen, needy humanity. Because Jesus lived this way, He practiced something the source calls self-denial. Now, the text defines this as binding about your own supposed wants to be liberal in relieving the necessities of others. That is a massive mouthful of words, right? Let's break it down. I like to think of it as a superpower trade. You trade in something you want, like maybe an extra piece of candy or a brand new game you don't really need, and you use that money or time to give someone else what they actually need to survive.
It's basically a choice we make every single day. Think of it like two sides of a coin. On side A, we have our supposed wants. Those are the things we convince ourselves we absolutely must have. And on side B, we have the necessities of others, people who literally need food or clothes or shelter. Activating our helping hand superpower simply means sliding our focus away from side A and pouring it over into side B. But here is a question that might actually surprise you. Why does God allow poor people who are in such deep need to be all around us? The author of our source text makes a totally fascinating point here. They aren't just around us by accident. They are actually the absolute key to us completing our special mission.
The text gives us this quote. It says, "If we had not the poor among us, we would lose much. Without people who need our help, we would literally lose the incredible chance to practice being like Jesus. We'd never get to use our superpower of self-denial, and our spiritual muscles would just get weak. Helping those in need is literally the training ground for our hearts."
The source actually maps out a super clear, step-by-step chain reaction for us. Step 1, we have to actually open our eyes and see the poor in their helplessness and need. Step 2, we step up and provide food and clothing, which is where we actively practice denying ourselves. And step 3, by doing this, we cultivate the attributes of Jesus and perfect our Christian character. It is an amazing chain reaction.
So, how do we make this practical in our everyday lives? The devotional gives us a really simple rule to follow. I want to challenge you to remember this the next time you have some pocket money or an allowance to spend. Before you buy that extra treat, just pause for a second. Ask yourself what the ultimate helping hand would do with those coins.
When we make those unselfish choices, we are doing what the text calls treading in his footsteps. We let his tenderness into our hearts. We care so much that we might even weep at the sight of woe or sadness in the world. We actively practice that self-denial and self-sacrifice. And by taking these exact actions, we are literally stepping right into the loving footprints that Jesus left behind in the dirt for us to follow.
All of these steps lead up to this beautiful, ultimate goal. The source says the character of the Christian is to be a reproduction of the character of Christ. Think of a reproduction like a perfectly clear mirror or an exact, high-quality photocopy. Our goal isn't just to do nice things every once in a while. Our goal is for people to look at our character, the way we act and treat people, and see an exact copy of Jesus' amazing, heroic character. So the absolutely crucial point here is that reproducing his character means we have to show the exact same things he showed. The same love, the same grace, and the same unselfish benevolence, which really just means unselfish giving. That was seen in his everyday life, and doing that is the ultimate proof that we are actually following him.
We've seen how infinitely big the gift is. We've seen the ultimate example in Jesus. And we've learned exactly how to use the superpower of self-denial. So now, the mission is yours. How will you be God's merciful helping hand today? Don't wait for tomorrow. Look around you right now. Find someone in need and put your superpower into action. Because if every single one of us chose to use this superpower today, how fast do you think we could change the entire world?